In this episode of Q&A, I talk about what pens you would want to take on spring break, the top selling pens in several different price ranges, and what a Goulet rewards program might look like. Hey everybody, Brian Goulet here of GouletPens.com, and it is the middle of March. What day is it? 18th today. Oh my goodness. It's been quite a week, been very busy. Weather's been all over the place. It's very warm today. I'm kind of wishing I'd worn shorts, but you can't tell that behind my desk here, but I'm wearing jeans still and it's 81 degrees outside, so I'm a naturally warm person anyway. I don't know why I'm going into all this detail about my natural warmth patterns, but anyway, so we had Pie Day earlier this week, March 14th, had some fun with that, bought some pies, brought them in here. In the pie versus cake debate here at Goulet, I am very much on team cake, but I still like pies too, so we celebrated Pie Day. Everybody else was like, well, where's cake day? And I was like, every day is cake day. Birthdays, man. Everybody's got birthdays every day of the year. Even Pie Day is cake day, so don't even give me that. I've been very busy, a lot of business things, but I've also been busy reading Gary Vaynerchuk's latest book. I'll give him a little plug here. If you have not looked at this book, if you're interested in Gary Vaynerchuk at all, you definitely should pick up this book because it's really awesome. And he's just a really solid social media marketing business guy. It's one of the most hands-on books that I've read in a long time, so definitely recommend that one. Nice little plug for him. Not affiliated with him in any way, just super appreciative of a guy who writes a great book. It also inspired me to get on my own personal Instagram and Snapchat account. So if you go to Instagram, I am brian.goulet, so you can check me out there, or you can check me out on Snapchat at Brian Goulet, one word. I was lucky to snap that one up. Snap it up. Oh, didn't even mean to say that. Snatch it up. But anyway, check me out on there. I'm doing Snapchat stories. I'm definitely snapping back all of my friends who are joining me, so I'm having some fun with that. Highly recommend you do that. It's a lot of fun if you're interested in Snapchat at all. We got Madigan out on our media team this week. She is out touring across the country, which is kind of cool, and Margaret's been covering everything for her, done a great job. I just wanted to shout them out because we might have been a little lighter on social media this week, but we got Colin and Lydia, who are new community coordinators that are training, learning the ropes. It's only their second week here, but they're learning fast. They're going to be a great asset to the team. You guys are going to get to really kind of meet them pretty soon virtually, so it should be pretty cool. Bit of product knowledge for them to get up to speed on, but anyway. I'm also planning out for the Atlanta show next month. Got several different interviews lined up, lots of cool things. We're going to be throwing a party there. It's going to be a lot of fun. So that will be interesting. More details to come on that. It's still a month out, so I'm still locking down some of those details, but it's going to be pretty cool. Let's see here. I got some products that are coming out. I have a few of the Visconti Florentine Hills, which is pretty cool. I can go ahead and zoom in a little bit on the products here. So the Florentine Hills actually kind of matches my shirt a little bit today. But anyway, it's a limited edition Visconti pen that is, look at that, pen's, no, the thing's not focusing, sorry. Ooh. Okay, I'll zoom out a little bit. So it's a acrylic and celluloid, the celluloid ribbon and the acrylic pen. It's a blend of the two. It's a pen from a couple of years ago. They had a handful left. They only made 1,000 of them, and we have 6 of them left as of the shooting of this video. Let me zoom out all the way here. Other things that we got in the works, we got the Visconti Dark Age that's going to be coming next week, we think, in the medium size. It's kind of frustrating. We're getting a trickle in of different nib sizes and stuff like that. So sign up for the email notification list. That will be your guide as to when we'll actually have everything. It's going to end up being more of a trickling in than it is one big release of all the nib sizes together. So it's going to be a Visconti Homo Sapiens with all dark accents. Pretty sweet looking. So that's kind of exciting. Also the Montegrappa Copper Mule, which we launched a couple of weeks ago, but this is my one that's patinaing rather nicely. But got a video on that we put out on Wednesday. It's been very well received so far. So that's been kind of cool. So you can check that pen out, kind of a new intro into Montegrappa's pens we haven't really done a whole lot with. We also got the Field Notes Sweet Tooth, which is field notes that are colored all the way through. And the cool thing is they are perforated, so you can tear the pages out. First time Field Notes has ever done that. So we got a shipment of those in, and they are hopefully still here by the time this video airs. But kind of neat, fun little thing, and they did a pretty cool little video. Also got these things called the Ink Misers. You might have seen these talked about with luxury brands. They're the distributor of Noodlers. So they actually developed these little things, and they're pretty cool how they work. It's essentially a plastic cone. One is a standalone, the other one is made to fit inside ink bottles. And so it's a plastic cone, you put ink in it and you fill your pen. Relatively simple concept. For the standalone one, you know, it's made especially good for like Noodler's 4.5 ounce ink bottles, where it's got a really narrow neck, or maybe like Jeroboam bottles or something like that. Very narrow neck. You can't really fit your pen in, especially if the ink level gets low. Then you can just kind of pour some into here, fill your pen, and then move on with your life. This one is actually pretty cool. And let me see if I have a Noodler's bottle I can drop this into. I do. So here is a Noodler's bottle. This is actually what I use as a demo bottle when I fill my various pens for various videos. So you take this little guy and you drop it in to the bottle. You screw the cap on, and then it has cuts inside of it. You pour it upside down, you flip it back over, and then when you do that, you can then fill from the cone that you have here. This is now filled with ink like so. Voila, see that ink that was in there? So you can, when your ink level gets low enough where you can't fill your pen anymore, either because you're using a converter and it's too hard to twist the converter with it all the way down in the pen, or your nib is, you have a pen with a really long nib, you can use this this little guy in here. This one is $5, the standalone one is $6. You know, yeah, it's just a piece of plastic, but it's more what it does for you. So pretty cool. For $5, it could make your life easier if you're filling from this type of bottle a lot, you know, especially if you've got other bottles that are not nearly as functional. Then you could get a spare Noodler's bottle. We sell empty ink bottles. You could get a spare one, pick up this guy, and then you could do all kinds of fun stuff with it. So anyway, just kind of a neat little thing to consider. We have them in stock now, so that's kind of cool. And you're going to ask me, I know already, if this is going to fit into any other bottles. And I'm going to come out with something on the product page that's going to say which ones it does. Zippy from our customer care team was just testing it out today. She said it fits on, shoot, I'm throwing platinum. It fits on the 60 mil platinums. It fits on, crud, I can't remember. You're going to have to look on the product page because I can't remember. She literally told me, I was like, which ones does it fit? She's like, blah, 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 blah. But it's not a ton of them. Stipula was another one. And that was the only one that was coming to mind. I'll probably remember the other. There were two more that it fits on. I'll probably remember them as I'm trying to talk about something else, and I'll just blurt it out randomly. Let's see here. What else? Visconti Rembrandt Special Ops is going to be coming very soon. Again, we have a few of them, but our email notification list way exceeds what we have, so we're waiting until we get another batch in. Same price as the other Rembrandts. It's just a nice, like kind of an olive dark green material with a black grip, trim, nib, all that stuff. Very sleek looking. Definitely my favorite of the Rembrandt bunch. We're just waiting to get more. So I think we're going to get another shipment either late this week, maybe early next week. So probably mid next week, we'll definitely have something going on for you. Thank you for being patient on that. It's been tough getting delays and stuff like crazy. And then the last thing I wanted to update on was the Pelikan Edelstein Aquamarine, which is their ink of the year. Lots of people excited about that, waiting for that. I think we're supposed to get it soon, maybe next week. Until we have them in hand or have like a shipping notice, I'm hesitant to say exactly when, but I think it's right around the corner. Cool. All right, that's my intro. A little bit longer of an intro than I thought maybe, but there's just a lot of product things going on this week. So let's get into it. For pens and writing, I got a question from Jim C on Facebook. Says, I am going to Florida on spring break. What pens should I bring? Well, Jim, I can say from personal experience, I have no idea what pens you should bring, because not only was I not into fountain pens when I was spring break appropriate age, I also never went on like a Florida beach spring break kind of trip. So I have to go off of what I have heard / seen in the movies and on TV, which I'm sure is really accurate to reality. So I'm gonna just back up, zoom out a little bit on this question. Okay, specifically to spring break, I don't know. Something colorful, I don't know. But basically, it's if you're traveling, if you're going somewhere, I imagine most spring break scenarios are probably even more to a degree of it's possible you could lose or break or have your pen stolen than maybe other trips you would go on. But in general, just to take it just out of the spring break situation, I would say that if you're traveling and there's any risk of you losing or breaking your pen, these answers will apply to that as well. I'm just putting it in the context of your spring break. So I would say in general, it's best to stick with things that are less expensive. So some of my recommendations are pens like the Pilot Varsity, you know, very inexpensive, $3.20 I think it is now, and it comes preloaded with ink. The whole body's filled with ink, so it's a pretty good amount. Chances are one pen would be good for you for the whole week, assuming that you're going for a week. That seems to be pretty typical for spring break. Another one would be a Platinum Preppy, fairly cheap, easy to replace should you happen to lose it. Pretty reliable pen as well. Pilot Metropolitan, if you want to, you know, get something a little nicer. It's still very durable, really holds up well, comes in lots of fun colors. $15, nice choice. I would also say a Lamy Safari. You know, this is a charcoal one, but there's all kinds of other ones that are cool colors. This is on the more expensive end, pushing more $30. But if it's a pen that you want to take with you, you want to hold up a little bit, but you're not as worried about losing it, this would be a great one. You can take multiple nibs with you. So if you want to do some journaling, you want to do some calligraphy practice, whatever, you could just bring multiple nibs, not worry about multiple pens. So there's that kind of situation. So those would be kind of some of my top picks. You know, obviously you could bring whatever you want, but if you want something on the cheap end that's reliable, that is, you know, durable, those would be my choices. The next question is from Jennifer K on YouTube, and Jennifer asks, is there a way to bring your writing style into the fountain pen? Or is it basically that you start over and learn a new type of penmanship? I would say definitely bring your own style. I mean, maybe there was a time, especially 20, 30, 40 years ago, when it was more common to, well, have handwriting in school at all, but specifically to have fountain pens used in school for teaching handwriting. I think a lot of people associated fountain pens with, you know, cursive and learning how to write and writing in a specific style. Certainly that was something more common in the early 1900s, back when fountain pens were literally the communication tool of the time. That was probably much more of a steadfast rule. You would learn Spencerian script, or you would learn really proper kind of script writing, and it was actually viewed as very much like a status thing. If you had nice handwriting, it was indicative that you were higher educated. It was indicative that you had more discipline, that you were a better communicator, that you were a more dignified individual. I think that was something that was very popular about 100 years ago. That more often is not the case these days. There are many other methods of communication, obviously, but it's funny, you know, even today, I run into people and, you know, they apologize. Like as soon as I talk to them and I'm like, oh yeah, I sell fountain pens, you know, I'm into that. And they're like, I'm sorry, my handwriting is terrible. And they're like, they're like, I'm just using this crappy pen. They get all like ashamed and stuff like that. And I'm like, you know, I think for most people coming from the outside world of fountain pens, they associate fountain pens with status. They associate fountain pens with, you know, elitism to a degree, or maybe like, you know, you said like, are you expected to write differently by using this pen? I personally say just use them, you know, just try them out. They don't have to be like some way different kind of thing than your normal pen, even though they ultimately can lead to your wanting to improve your handwriting, and because you just enjoy writing more and it becomes, you know, more of a part of your life. Please don't let that intimidate you, especially all you newer folks. I'm gonna speak to you all like right now, literally. Like if you're new, if this is your first Goulet video you've ever watched, or maybe you've lurked a little bit and you're new to fountain pens, you know, I would love if you would just leave in the comments on YouTube or on the blog, wherever. Hit me up on Snapchat, Instagram, whatever. Let me know if you're new to fountain pens, because I really want to encourage you to not let kind of that barrier of whatever preconceived notions you have in your head about fountain pens. I don't want you to let that stop you from trying. No joke, you can get a Pilot Varsity for just over $3, and you can try it out and see if you like it. If you don't, no big deal. Like, it's okay. You don't even have to buy it from me. The Varsity you can get at most office supply stores. Just try it. Just don't let there be any hang-ups about trying a fountain pen for the first time. Just write with it, do your normal writing thing, try it out. Now, with that said, I will say it's very, very natural when you start using fountain pens to kind of get hooked and to want to improve your handwriting. But even that's a whole other kind of conversation that I don't even necessarily mean to get into with this question specifically. But I would say that it's definitely way more acceptable today to just kind of take writing and make it your own than it is to try to fit into some specific script or discipline of writing the same letter over and over again with this very graph and have to hit these specific points. You certainly can do that, and that's really cool. Mad respect. I've been deep into the fountain pen world for the last 6 years, 6+ years, probably 7 years, whatever, long time, and I have really not done a lot to improve my handwriting. Like, I have to honestly confess a little bit. I feel just a little bit guilty, the fact that I haven't spent more time improving my handwriting. But, you know, honestly, I don't really feel that guilty about it. I think it's really noble. It's really respectable when people do really get deep in and want to improve their handwriting. I think that's really cool, and just mad respect for you. I look at people with nice handwriting. I'm not joking. I get letters from people every day, and you know, their handwriting is nice and consistent, and I've never had great handwriting throughout my life, you know, and it's really, you know, kind of nicely formatted and whatnot. Mine is just not like that. Mine's a little more all over the place. It has gotten a lot better since I started out in fountain pens. I kind of plateaued. When I started out with fountain pens, I immediately felt the impulse to do cursive writing again, just because the pen flows so nicely. So even though I didn't expect myself to improve my handwriting, whatever, I did the script thing because I just found I enjoyed that fluid motion more. And that's just me. You don't have to do that. Plenty of people print in fountain pens and it's just fine. I personally just wanted to do it. So I say, do whatever you want to do. But for me, my handwriting improved pretty drastically over the first 3 weeks to a month. And it really hasn't changed ever since then because I haven't practiced it. I haven't made it my discipline. It did improve. There's a law of diminishing returns with how much you practice. But to give you a little bit of inspiration to go back to the actual question, there's a couple of people out there that I'll point you to, folks like Matthew Morse. He's Hey Matthew on Instagram. Really cool stuff. Does some cool stuff with like some dip pens and folded nibs and a little more artistic style, but he's got kind of this cool like graffiti looking style that he's done. He'll literally like take a folded nib and like flick ink on the page, make it look kind of all like splattery and stuff like that. Very cool. You know, he's got his own cool style. I dig that. So go check out him on Instagram. Lay Reyes, Lay Pod on YouTube, on Instagram as well. She is really cool. She does a lot with flex pens. I've got some nice Nakayas vintage pens. Excuse me. And she has done a lot of cool stuff and kind of made her script kind of her own. She does a little more of a classic kind of script, but it really kind of makes it her own unique thing. So big shout out to Lay. She's awesome. Check out her stuff. She has amazing pens too. And also my custom puppet on Instagram has some really cool stuff, pushing the envelope as far as some of the art and some of the lettering and stuff there. So you can check out that account as well. So there is some cool stuff out there, especially if you look on Instagram. You'll see a lot of neat stuff of people that have taken kind of script and just really made it their own, had some artistic expression. Very, very cool stuff. So they'll give you some encouragement maybe that you don't have to try to fit into a specific mold with fountain pens. You can find out. If you do want to see like a true master penman and what could be done, check out Jake Weedman, my man crush. He is a master penman out in Colorado, does just unbelievable stuff. I mean, a master penman is full on legit, like indisputable. You are like the champion of writing stuff. He can literally like ambidextrous do two-handed writing stuff. Crazy stuff. Check out his stuff. Anyway, he's kind of just an example of what you can aspire to do if you're really super into the pen thing, the writing stuff. So for me, I just haven't really spent a lot of time on learning the handwriting stuff. It's really up to you. So I don't feel like you have to, but you may find that you get the bug and you want to, and that's totally cool. But like any other thing else, it's once you start to get into the handwriting stuff, the fountain pen turns from a pen, literally like turns from just a pen into a writing instrument. For any of you musicians out there that have ever played an instrument, you know that it takes practice. You can pick it up, you can learn the scales, you can learn the notes fairly quickly, but to get really good at it takes a lot of practice. So that's what you should be getting into it, but I would say you can still enjoy the crap out of your pens without learning a darn thing. I am very self-taught. I've never gone through any lesson plan or anything like that to improve my handwriting, and I'm happy enough with my handwriting where it's not something, you know, I've got a lot of different things going on. I'm running a business, I'm doing videos, I got kids, all this stuff. So it just hasn't been as much of a priority for me because I know what's going to be involved in improving it. So let me be an inspiration to you that you can really enjoy fountain pens without having to change a darn thing. That question went way longer than I thought it would. Anyway, Hugh C on the blog says, I'm a student and I need a cheap, durable pen that won't look like trash after a few scratches. Yesterday, my Lamy Safari uncapped in my pocket and ruined my favorite sweatshirt. Sorry. So I would like the pen to have a cap that will stay firmly in place when pocketed. However, I cannot exceed $50 when buying the pen. Any recommendations? All right, Hugh, I'm up for the challenge here. You can definitely go with a snap cap. Sorry the Lamy came apart. You know, it's got a fairly positive snap, but you know, I could see where that would come undone. I would say if you're looking for, I always will compare the Metropolitan and the Safari. I think they're both the two best, pretty much the two best starter pens you can get. It's still a snap cap, but it snaps a little more positively than the Safari, so the Metropolitan might be something for you to explore. Also, the Jinhao. Very cheap pen, cheaper than both of them actually, 10 bucks for, you know, the X750, X450. This one, the X750, is a little more popular than the 450. The 450's got a, like, you gotta yank the cap to get it undone. So that one you could definitely do. The 750 is much firmer than these other two. I would feel really good about you carrying this around in your pocket. It's a little larger maybe than, well, it's not that much larger than a Safari. It's actually about pretty comparable in size, a little heavier, but that would certainly be a way to go if you wanted to stay with the convenience of a snap cap. Now, if you want to get away from a snap cap, you can get really sure that you're not going to have some kind of uncapping in your pocket. Pen like the Kaweco Sport. So we're getting into threaded pens now, okay? So these are pens that you have to unscrew, but they're not going to come unscrewed in your pocket. So Kaweco Sport, it's a great pocket pen because it's small. It takes cartridges, you can convert it to an eyedropper, but then you're really kind of playing with the is it gonna leak kind of thing. If you convert it to an eyedropper, that means you're filling the whole body of the pen with ink. Then you're kind of getting to a place where you could get into a leak in somewhere other than the cap, specifically right on the threads. You may want to carry it inside a Ziploc bag or something if you're gonna be carrying around your pocket there, but that's a great choice. It does take ink cartridges, and there's a new converter that's supposedly coming out. I haven't seen it yet for myself in person, but I have high hopes. TWSBI Eco is another good one, very inexpensive, just under 30 bucks. Pretty durable pen, high ink capacity. It's got an O-ring, it's got threads, so it caps well, pretty positively. I have been carrying it around for a while, never had any issues with it. I'll carry it in my pocket, but I've been carrying it in my backpack, never had any issues with it even leaking like up into the cap or anything, no. So that one would be one to consider. Let's see here, what else have I got? Yeah. That's it. I got all these pens laid out here. I need to look at my notes instead of looking at my pens. Those would be some of the good ones that I would recommend. Along the lines of the TWSBI though, you could go with an Eco like this. You could go with a TWSBI Mini, 580. Those are all in that price range. You can go a little bit higher to like a VAC Mini or a VAC 700. They're all going to be kind of in the same utility as far as what you're talking about in this context. So those would be some of my recommendations. Obviously, if you got any other ones in the comments, go ahead and leave them. Next question is from Jack P in an email, says, hi Brian, what are your most popular low, intermediate, and high-end price range pens? So first, when I get into this question, I need to define what I'm going to consider to be the parameters for each of these price ranges, because for some people, a $15 Pilot Metropolitan is a high-end pen. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a definition for the context of this question as to what I'm going to consider the price range. I'm going to say anything from, you know, the lowest price up to $50 or so is going to be what I consider low end. I realize $50 is not that cheap, but that's what I'm going to consider low end given the full breadth of products I'm carrying. Medium range pens would be like the 50 to, I'll call it $139 or $140 range. That's going to basically be your higher end steel nib pens. that's going to be my medium range. And then anything $140 on up, you're mostly getting into gold nib pens. Yes, you can get into the higher end Viscontis that start pushing $1,000 or more. Those I would consider to be like luxury pens, even beyond a high end. That's a whole different class that I won't really cover here. Specifically, we're talking about what's popular. When you get into those, really none of them are popular. And that could be a little controversial, but when you're getting into the $1,000 price range pens, usually they're limited in number, and usually they always sell out. So to say which one's more popular than another, it's because they limit the stock. It's really a different way of manufacturing and marketing pens. So it gets into, then you get into discussions of economics and all this kind of stuff. So I'm leaving those ones out. So even pens like the Homo Sapiens and some of that, I don't have a lot of pens in the $700-800 price range like the Homo Sapiens here. So like the Homo Sapiens is the most popular just because that's kind of all I have in that range. So I'm gonna stick to, you know, kind of like the $140 to $250, $300 price range for my high-end pens. Cool? That's just the parameters I'm using right now. You can define it however you want, but that's what I'm doing for this context right now. So for the low end, I'm gonna go ahead and put Jinhao in there, and really kind of any of the Jinhaos, 450, 750, 159. The 750 is the most popular of those, so I'll go ahead and say that one. Inexpensive, 10 bucks. Comes with a converter. It's not the best converter, but it's great. It accepts a number 6 nib, like a Goulet nib. A lot of people do those conversions. So that is a very popular one to consider. Shimmering Sands is the most popular, the one that looks kind of like a fake Rodin. Also, Pilot Metropolitan, not a surprise. You're not gonna be surprised by any of these really. Very, very popular, 15 bucks, incredible value. Just probably one of the best value pens you can get. Lamy Safari, lots of different colors, swappable nibs, so that's really cool. Great nib range, so better nib range than any of the other pens I'm recommending. So great ones there, reliable, solid pen, very popular. And then Noodler's pens, honestly, which I'm realizing I didn't grab out of my case, but Noodler's Ahab, Conrad, Nib Creeper, they're all in that price range, and they all are very popular. Now, they're all flex nib pens, so they're kind of in their own category. But based on the number of them that people are buying, I would consider that to be one of the more popular pens. Let's go up to medium range. So the medium range, you're looking in like the like the $50 to $139 range. And some of these ranges, I'm gonna bend just a little bit because you get into MSRP versus street price, and depending on which retail you're looking at, it might kind of cross over into certain ranges. So I'm gonna bend and flex a little bit, no pun intended. I'm gonna flex just a little bit these ranges somewhat. So in this kind of $50 range, I'm gonna say like TWSBI, anything is gonna be in there. It's definitely like kind of this next level steel nib pen. So the Eco is definitely kind of a little bit on the lower end, but you know, on the higher end, you got the higher end TWSBI, that is. Mid-range pens, sorry, I'm mixing all my terms up. Mini, 580, VAC Mini, VAC 700, all of those would kind of fit in there. So that would be in there. Conklin Durograph, or the All-American to a lesser degree, but the Durograph has really been a pretty popular pen. It is a little bit cheaper. I believe it's actually in the mid $40 range, but MSRP is higher. So anyway, I would lump that in there. It's not necessarily most people's like kind of starter pens, but this one could cross into the low, medium, whatever, it's in there. And then I would say the Lamy Studio too is also a pretty solid one. Studio is going to range in like the $76 range. You can get more expensive ones that have gold nibs on them that push them up into the high-end range, but I'm considering like pretty much the basic range. And actually this one I have here, this is the limited, oh gosh, I don't even have a nib on this thing, and I need to clean it off. How about that? I got like ink on the grip and everything. Ugh. I didn't pull this cap off before shooting the video, but anyway, this is an old limited edition, not limited edition, sorry. This is an older edition. They have the Imperial blue now. Before that, it was just regular blue that was more of a Goulet blue, and I was sad to see it go away, but anyway, this is one I just kind of pulled out to make you jealous. But anyway, Lamy Studio has lots of different finishes, not lots, a few different finishes in that steel nib range. So that one, same benefits that you would have with the Lamy Safari or even the All-Star, where you can swap the nibs and stuff like that. Reliable pen, good stuff there. Now moving up to the higher end range, in terms of popularity, this was actually kind of the easiest. The mid-range is kind of like a little tougher because it tends to be less obvious as to like, this is the best mid-range pen. No, they're usually like the low end range is good, and then once you get into this high end range, as I'm defining it here, it really becomes the low end gold nib range. So whenever you got a low end range, usually there's like a few star performers, and that's the case here for this high end pen range. You're at the low prices of the gold nib pens now. So kicking it off, Lamy 2000 definitely is super popular, great pen, huge fan of it. $156 right in there, really good. Pilot Vanishing Point, click retractable, super convenient, tons of colors. Oh, I forgot to mention, Lamy 2000, it's their 50th anniversary this year. Before you ask, I don't know what the anniversary edition is going to be. I know there is one that they're coming out with, but it's going to be late in the summer, and I have no previous knowledge of what it's going to be. So if I do find out, I will have to keep it on the DL until I'm kind of been given the blessing from the almighty Lamy, you know, who's who, to share that. But I don't actually know anything yet, so sorry. Going back to Pilot Vanishing Point, it has swappable nib units, which is kind of cool. And the Decimo is going to be coming out pretty soon too. It's hard to say that that is going to be one of the more popular ones, but I'm expecting it to be very popular. It's basically a thinner, lighter version of the Vanishing Point, and it's going to come out in 4 different colors. Going to have a video on that fairly soon, in the next week or two probably. No firm date on that yet, but we had samples of it, we shot footage and all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. But Vanishing Point, extremely popular, pretty decent range of nib sizes, reliable, yada, yada, yada. $150 range. Pilot Falcon, also very popular, especially because it's got a soft nib, so a lot of people like to use it to get line variation. Light pen, classic styling, it's got a just flawless reputation. Few people have trouble with it just because of the soft nib thing, but you can write with a lighter hand and not have a soft nib at all. So also very popular pen. And then also I would consider the Edison Nouveau Premier, which I forgot to grab, and the Collier. The Edison pens are very popular, specifically the Premier, because we've been doing the seasonals and those have made it pretty popular. And the Collier is actually a very popular Edison pen, even though you can't post it, even though it's very large, very popular. So I would consider those to be some of the more popular higher end pens. And I think an honorable mention needs to go to Visconti with their Homo Sapiens and some of their other higher end pens. Visconti is specifically has been doing some really cool stuff lately. We've been carrying them for really just a few months now, but they have been overwhelmingly popular. I think for good reason. They're coming out with a lot of cool stuff. So those would be some of my recommendations for you. Now I'm going to change gears just a little bit here and go to an ink question. This question is from Cathleen C on YouTube. Kathleen says, I hate neon highlighters because I find the colors are pretty harsh on my eyes. I'm currently using zebra midliners, but the colors are rather dark. I'm interested in trying out fountain pen highlighters. Are there inks that are labeled as highlighter inks, the only ones that you can use, or can you use any light colored ink? So first off, I'll say if you want to see the highlighter inks we have available at Goulet, you can do that. It's not necessarily under the properties like water resistance and UV and all that stuff in our drop-down. It's actually under the colors. So if you go to gouletpens.com, you click on bottled ink, you can then see in the color swatch drop-down, there is a place under ink color that says highlighter/invisible. That's how you narrow down the search for the highlighter inks. So hopefully that can help you at least navigate and narrow down what your options are. I'm super glad we have that option on our site. You're going to find most of them are going to be Noodler's inks because Noodler's just likes to push the envelope when it comes to ink design. But you don't have to be restricted to those. In general, you're not going to see those inks being too dark in color. Some of them are going to be a little on the neon side. And honestly, it's like really hard to have those come across in a digital scan because these ink colors just do not want to photograph. So some of them you might need to get some samples and try out or read the reviews and stuff like that. I honestly don't like super test all of them. The Dragon Cat Noodler's inks are pretty vibrant. Firefly, Chartreuse, those are all pretty vibrant. But if you go with something like a Noodler's Atlantic Salmon or the Blue Lightning, I think it's called, those are a little more subdued. You don't have to go with a highlighter ink though. You can certainly use a lighter ink. Jeroboam Bouton d'Or is a good example. It's a light yellow. It's pretty much useless as a normal ink. So unless you're highlighting with it, you know, maybe if you're like ink washing with it or something, you can use it. I don't know. It's not a very popular ink. And there's several kind of lighter yellows and lighter greens and stuff like that that are not super practical for regular ink, but you could certainly use them for highlighting, especially if you wanted to highlight them in the Pilot Parallel. That's a great pen using as a highlighter. I don't have one to show you, but you can look it up on our site. Pilot Parallel is a really good pen. It's a steel nib pen. It's about 10 bucks, but you can use it for highlighting. It works really great. So it's kind of a stub nib. And then if you wanted to kind of tweak the adjustment of your color, you can actually dilute the ink with water, and that'll lighten up the color a bit. You know, start out with maybe a 10% dilution, go a little bit further to like maybe 25% dilution, even up to a 50% dilution. Once you start to push more than 25, it starts to really kind of mess with the flow and the properties and stuff like that, because you're just watering it down so much. But it's certainly something you could experiment with if you have a color and you're really kind of trying to tweak it. And the color can vary a little bit too, depending on, you know, the paper that's being used and stuff like that. So you may want to tweak it just a little bit, but that would certainly be an option for you. All right, actually, I didn't really mean to choose this, but I had a decent number of business questions this week, but they're all fairly pen-related business. So I'm not just gonna be like going off the rails talking about a bunch of randomness. So bear with me, even if you're not typically as interested in the business questions, I think you'll like all these because they're very, very pen-related. So this question is from Parth P on Facebook, asking, will you be at the Atlanta show as a visitor or vendor with a booth? Okay, so I am going to get more into details about the Atlanta show in the next couple of weeks. We're planning on kind of doing more than we've ever done for any show at the Atlanta show, and I've never even been to the Atlanta show, so you know, that's kind of cool. I heard that there were a bunch of like bloggers and stuff like that. Originally it started out because the Pen Addict is doing their 200th broadcast. It's gonna be a live broadcast for the Pen Addict podcast. So Mike Hurley did a Kickstarter to get Mike Hurley over from the UK to the Atlanta show, because Brad Dowdy is based right outside of Atlanta. So it's kind of cool. They just kind of did that on their own, but they have a magnetism to them that, you know, makes other people want to come. So there's other, like Karis Customs is going to be there. You know, I think there's other like Anna from Well Appointed Desk. There's going to be other bloggers and stuff like that. So I was like, well, we got this Goulet guest thing that we've been doing recently that I'm really kind of digging. How cool would it be to be able to interview people live on the spot, especially people I've never met, like Anna, you know, and Dan Bishop from Karis Customs, people that I've wanted to interview but just haven't like lined that up yet. They're all going to be in one place. I was like, how cool would it be to just go and record some of these interviews? Well, once that started to happen, it was like everybody kind of jumped on, and like anybody who's you know going to be there for kind of this blogging stuff, I've kind of reached out to and be like, hey, you want to do an interview? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, oh shoot, I have like 6 interviews now that I've lined up. So I'm actually going to be pretty stacked just with interviews and stuff like that. And then there's going to be like a Friday night after party, which we may be sponsoring. I'm still kind of working out those details. So we might be throwing a Goulet party on Friday night. Saturday, there's going to be a party after the Pen Addict podcast. So that's going to be pretty crazy. So, you know, as much as pen people like to party, it's going to be a pretty wild weekend. But, you know, it actually is going to be pretty fun because we did the same kind of thing in DC. It was actually a pretty good group of people. There were like 80 people that showed up to this very ad hoc thing that was thrown together. So Atlanta's a smaller show, but even still, if you're like even in the Atlanta area, by all means, just come on to the after party. So anyway, I will be there basically as a visitor slash blogger slash periscoper, Snapchatter, Instagrammer, interviewer, you name it. I live online, so I'm going to be doing a lot of online things, creating content, doing a lot of stuff. And actually, it got to the point where it was an initial idea of like, oh, Rachel and I could go. We have to fly there, so it's time and expense and all that. But we were like, yeah, it's going to be cool. Get to see Brad Dowdy in person. Yeah, you know, we saw him at the DC show last year, so that's kind of our neighborhood. Now we'll be in his neighborhood. You know, we're going to line up with like him and Jeff from Knock. We're going to go like tour the Knock facility, which is right near there. So we're going to get to do a lot of cool stuff. But all of that to say, like, we won't be able to have a booth. It's just we're not going to be able to work it there. We're so far away. We're not going to be able to bring product or anything like that. I'm going to bring my own personal pen collection with a variety of pens that you guys are interested in seeing. So when we do meetups and stuff like that, I can whip out some of the cool stuff. You know, be like, oh yeah, here's a Florentine Hills NBD. You know, stuff like that. So I'll try to bring some of that stuff. I've now committed myself to bringing that pen probably, but still, I haven't planned out exactly what I'm bringing, but you know, so we're going to be spending as much time as possible. I'm going to try to shoot as much good content as I can to be able to share virtually, but then at the same time, I also want to meet up with people who are there at the show as much as possible. So that is going to be a little more irregular. I think I'm going to try to work out a meetup, like a Goulet meetup on Saturday afternoon sometimes. I actually need to reach out to the show promoter and see if I can kind of set some of these things up, but you know, that should probably be okay to do that. I'm trying to link up with some other people too that I don't even want to say because I'm still kind of working it out, but it's going to be pretty good. I'm still fleshing out all the details, but I'm not joking. I have like every minute of that show planned pretty much for my itinerary. And what I was saying is like the initial idea was Rachel and I were going to go, you know, and we'll go and just kind of meet it with a couple of people and shoot some interviews. It got to the point where I ended up scheduling like the entire weekend with interviews. So we're actually bringing our videographer Jenny with us on this trip so that she can help on the technical side and, you know, recording the videos and setting all that up so that I can focus mainly on actually doing the interviews and knowing what I'm talking about, and then meeting up with people, doing selfies, hanging out, talking pens, playing pens, all that kind of stuff. So I am going to be exhausted at the end of this trip, but I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then if this is a big hit, logistics work out and everything, I would definitely look to plan to do something similar in DC, just meeting up with people, because DC is an even bigger show. So it should be a lot of fun. But basically, I'm not going to bring any product to sell. Don't expect that. But we can meet, hang out, chat, all that good stuff. All right, we got Carolyn N from Facebook says, I really enjoy shopping with you guys, but of course you don't carry everything, which is true. Do you have any plans to expand it in the future into more stationery / art related products like washi tape, stickers, watercolor supplies, filofaxes, etc.? Great question. So what happens after you run a business for a few years and you kind of figure it out, you get over that initial hump of, you know, I don't really know what to do to make this business on solid footing, but then you do, you start to hire some folks, you got a good group, you get a good culture. Cool. What happens then is once you have that kind of smell of success and potential that starts to come off of you, is everybody just starts crawling out of the woodworks with opportunities for things you could do. So not only, you know, our vendors and manufacturers and stuff like that are like, we carry a subset of their product line, but they're like, oh, you could sell rollerballs, you could sell this, you could sell that, blah, 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 planners, blah, da, 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 da. But then there's all kinds of other opportunities that come about just because you have a lot of customers who like your experience, want you to carry other stuff. You start to just see opportunities and things like that. So what happens is you can really spread yourself thin and start to lose focus, and then you become the jack of all trades, master of none. I really want to try to avoid that. I spent a lot of time and effort to become kind of the fountain pen dude that I've become, and when I sidestep into watercolor, let's use that as an example, I know jack squat nothing about watercolor other than maybe some classes I took in 7th grade or something, and what I happen to know a little bit about ink and some of the properties of ink. But I have no artistic ability in that way. I have very little interest in doing that. So for me to step over into watercolor would be very unnatural. I would not be able to serve that community very well, and it would be distracting, and it would be an opportunity cost from some of the other more fountain pen related things that I would do. So getting into some of the more artsy kind of things is not really the route that I'm looking to go at this point. Mainly because, just stemming from me, it's just not my natural area. We have a lot of really artistic folks around here, and it's very, very tempting to get into there, because what happens is you get like these communities of people. You got like fountain pen community, you got like the bullet journaling community, the planner community, you get people who are into pencils. You want to talk about other communities. We were getting tugged hard into the pencil community a couple of years ago, and you know, Palomino Blackwings and things like that. Mechanical pencils and stuff, you know, a lot of it happened when the TWSBI pencil came out. We were like, oh, TWSBI will come up with a pencil. Man, did we realize, like, boosh, we were opening up Pandora's box when it came to pencils. And I was like, whoa, I like threw the brakes hard on that, because thankfully it became so obvious so quickly that I was not the expert to be talking about pencils, that it was going to take me years to come up. And then you've got like pencils.com. They're basically like the gouletpens.com of pencils, and they've been doing it since 2005 or something like that. Like, they are just the monster. Like, they own the pencil market. And I was like, I'm really not gonna just like give up the fountain pen thing and try to get into pencils. I was quickly just like severed it, boom. And a lot of that was happening actually pre the time period when we defined our mission statement and our company values and stuff like that. So that's actually what we end up truing back to. And this is where the business part of the question really starts to come out, is when you get to a certain size, a certain point, it really becomes critical for you to have a clear mission, a clear purpose for what your business serves, because otherwise it's easy to get very distracted, pulled in a lot of different directions. You can get an ego about yourself, you know, you start to become an expert in your field, and you start to think, well, gosh, I'm so good at this, I could easily carry rollerballs too. You know, what is there to carry rollerballs? We dabbled in rollerballs last year, didn't really move the needle on those. Very different community, very different people, you know, that are using them. Yeah, there are some fountain pen people that are into rollerballs and stuff like that, and we carried some selectively, but it was just not the explosive opportunity. I mean, the rollerball market is 100 times the size of the fountain pen market. I'm just pulling that number out of thin air, but it's probably not that far off. So if if we're this good, then we should be even better at rollerballs. No, it was kind of unnatural, so we reeled it back. So we actually ended up defining our mission statement so that it was more narrow. So it's to provide, our mission statement is to provide fountain pen enthusiasts with the most personal online shopping experience through comprehensive education, exemplary service, and products we believe in. And we true back to that. I'm not joking, like every single day. Like there's stuff that pops up around here and we're like, is this really exemplary service? You know, what does that really mean to us in this context? You know, oh, we got this shipping error that keeps coming up. Well, how often is it happening? Oh, well, this often. Well, we're really busy. We'd have to trade off. How do we attack this issue? Well, it's really hurting our customers. We are not providing the level of service. I'm like, dang it, we got to attack this. You know, like stuff like that comes up in areas that you wouldn't even really expect. We true back to that mission time and time and time and time again. So this is one area where it's like, you know, it's got to be products we believe in, which means products we know, a market that we know. Can we exemplary service? Can we provide service? Can we provide education? Do we know anything about these products to be able to educate people? So that's where, you know, we call it throwing the flag. You know, we do that all the time here. We don't have any physical flags. Maybe I need to design some, but, you know, we'll throw the flag all the time. As soon as we start talking about things, and we're very engaged with you all as a community, and we get a lot of questions, a lot of people asking about various things. So we're always talking about, like, what could we be offering? What could we be doing better? We always want to keep a pulse on that. But the way I like to kind of visualize it and equate it, and I do this a lot with my media team because they're out there like really seeking kind of you all and getting feedback and seeking opportunities. I equate it to kind of like a target on a bullseye. Like if you think about like a 2-ring like archery target, you know, I say like we've got our bullseye, which is like our hardcore like fountain pen community. You know what I mean? Like people like me, like you use fountain pens, you use them at work, you're just it's imbibed in your life. You are paper, ink, all that stuff. You're in the bullseye. That next outer ring is people like who are a little more into planners. Maybe they use a fountain pen, but they're not quite as into it. You know, people are doing ink washing. They're using fountain pen ink, but they're also doing mixed media, you know, some of that kind of thing. So it's not like it's completely off the target. It's not like I'm going to start selling watches. You know, I've seen other retailers, fountain pen retailers, who get into watches or who get into who knows what else. Pipes, cigars, whatever affiliated possible tangent thing there could be for people who are also into fountain pens tend to be into shaving, wet shaving, right? They start selling wet shaving and fountain pen supplies. I don't know any specifically who's gone that route, but it's not completely outside of the realm of possibilities because the communities overlap. The people that tend to use fountain pens tend to use knives or flashlights or whatever like everyday carry kind of stuff. There's lots of different like tangent overlapping kind of, if you think about like a big Venn diagram, you got like your hardcore fountain pen people, there's all these other like overlapping communities that kind of surround it, right? And you can get a lot of people who are dipping into the fountain pen world that are making all these suggestions for other things to carry. There's a lot of interesting memes that I'm visualizing that Jenny can be pulling out right now with all these hand motions. You can be getting into all of these other things and losing your core. Like we are, at our heart, fountain pen people. Like I am a fountain pen guy through and through. Utilitarian. I love the beautiful pens. I want them to function. I want to learn them. I want to learn as much about them as possible. Teach them to you. Share it. Service, education, products I believe in, through and through. Like I live that out. That's what you're going to get with Goulet. So we got to be careful when we're starting to get into some of these tangents, when we start to get to some of these outer rings. You know, I equate it to like a target on a bullseye. Like, I'm aiming for that bullseye. Every decision we're making in this company, every marketing decision, every product that we carry, every, you know, hiring decision, we're aiming for that bullseye. It's okay if we're off the bullseye a little bit, as long as we're still hitting the target. Okay, yeah, this one blog post might appeal a little more to the mixed media folks, but you know what, that's okay. It's still serving the fountain pen community. But if we're aiming for the edge of the target, it's going to be easy to miss it completely. That's the best analogy that I can come up with, that archery target. We're always aiming for the bullseye. That makes sense? I actually think that's a pretty cool analogy. The more I explain it, the more I kind of believe it myself. Anyway, so the one thing I will say that you brought up, I mean, you had etc. on there, but you brought up Filofax, and we've made it public. We are getting into Filofax planners. Filofax planners, now, part of it is honestly from like a behind the scenes logistical standpoint, from a distribution standpoint, a lot of that is easier, and we have really, really good support from Filofax as a distributor, because it's the same distributor as who we get Lamy through. Really good relationship with them. They are providing us a lot of education, a lot of support, a lot of product knowledge, and knowledge of the community are coming with them. So we are setting up to carry Filofax planners selectively, and we are seeking to, and it's not like we just pulled the trigger on it, I'm not joking, we started talking seriously about it in January. And as of right now, we're still kind of debating on the timing of the launch, because it's weird with planners because they're dated and stuff like that. And typically it's like July when they come out with the 2017 stuff. So we are looking to launch them around May at the moment, depending on the 2017 things and what we're able to work out as far as the refills and the dated stuff. I'm not sure exactly when that date is going to be at this point, but think about that, like January to, you know, May, June, July, whatever it ends up being. That's a lot of time to plan a new product, you know, and most of the time it's not that long. Like for something like the Rembrandt Special Ops, we got like one picture of this and we're like, yes, when's it coming? Like, no brainer, you know, similar to other things that we have. Filofax, we carry the Filofax notebooks like these, but they use different paper. They are for, you know, more fountain pen focused. It's different. It's a different product. Even that, we took a little bit of our time. These are very different though. So these are, you know, planners that you can like snap them in them out. You can get refills for them. You can personalize them. You get dividers. You can get all different kinds of things, address books, you name it. You know, little inserts and little flappy pockets and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, look, I know that I'm not going to be the Filofax expert like I am with fountain pens. It's a slightly different community. Slightly more like, you know, fashion driven, because especially with a lot of the other colors, people like to match them to the various things. That's not my, like, you know, look at what I wear, you know, like I'm not a fashion dude. Actually, this is one of the trendier shirts that I have. But I don't know, it's like a $9 Aeropostale shirt anyway from the college or whatever. I don't know if it's that old, but it's pretty old. So anyway, so the Filofax stuff, I'm excited to get into it. We're going to be leveraging the like already established Filofax community pretty hard on these, because I know we're not going to come out the gate being an expert, but we're going to be getting training from our Filofax rep. He's actually coming to visit with us and give us training on these products. We've had our whole team playing with them for the last couple of months. We've got all kinds of samples that we bought ahead of time so that we could play around with them. And, you know, we're trying to learn them as much as possible so that we can come out with that education, stuff like that. But the thing is, we just can't pursue everything at once. In fact, I have a quote literally on my office door from David Allen with his book, Getting Things Done, that says, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. And I love having that on my door, because I literally have to look at that and be like, okay, I am, you know, I want to do everything all the time right now, perfect everywhere. So for me, I have to be like, I really just have to sit down and pick and choose. And we have to do that as a company. So there you go. That's where we're at. Try not to open Pandora's box on everything, but Filofax is going to be coming. It will be coming for sure. In fact, let me go ahead and say, if you're watching this right now and you're a big Filofax fan, or you are a follower of somebody who's a big Filofax nut, and I mean that in the best way possible, please, please, please leave a comment and let me know, who is this community? What is the best way that you think that Goulet can serve this Filofax community? Because that's something that we're actively searching out right now. We're looking at people with Filofax YouTube channels. We're trying to understand this community so that we can come out and really add that Goulet magic touch to it. We don't want to copy people, but we want to just come out and make sure that we are providing truly a better, you know, offering than what's currently out there. So that would be really fantastic. And that's kind of where I'm at with all that. Connor A on YouTube says, at a recent trip to my local Mont Blanc boutique, the sales rep showed me a book of products to come out in the next year. I was surprised that many of them were relatively cheap compared to what Mont Blanc currently stocks. Is this something that you've noticed among the brands you carry? So for those of you that don't know, I do not carry Mont Blanc. We've inquired with them, but they only sell to brick and mortar stores. That's fine, they choose to do that. But I can't, because of that, I can't speak intelligently, especially about new Mont Blanc products that are coming, because I'm not privy to that knowledge, nor do I particularly care to invest my time and interest in that at the moment. So I have no affiliation with them, so I can't really speak specifically on them, but you asked me about other companies, this is a trend, so that I can speak on. So just as like a baseline, where I've come from, the first year of this business, we sold only ink and paper. We didn't even sell pens. So you want to talk about like intro level fountain pen stuff, you know, $5 notebooks, $8 bottles of ink, that's where we lived for the first year. That's how we got this business off the ground. So when we started to get into fountain pens, the first fountain pen we carried was the Noodler's Nib Creeper. You know, that was the first pen in the Pilot and the Platinum Preppy. Those were our pens. And we slowly have been carrying more and more pens over time. Now we're getting into some of the luxury pens. So you're seeing a lot of things. If you're only discovering Goulet recently in the last 3, 4, 5 months, you're seeing us coming out with $1,000 pens with some more regularity now. Historically, really has not been that case around here. We are very much, and honestly, I don't want you to look at these high-end pens. Yes, they're very fancy. Yes, I like to show them because honestly, for the last 6 years, I've been drooling over these pens, and it's kind of like, I'm kind of, you know, starstruck with some of these brands that we're getting into now. So, you know, some of that is just my own stuff. But I'm still head over heels with the Pilot Metropolitan and the Varsity and the Quakos and some of these, like, you know, less expensive pens. I have always been driving towards more value, because if you think about how Goulet grew, we've always focused on education, and the education has always been inspired by, you know, basically trying to help people to make it easier to get into fountain pens. Because when I was first getting into fountain pens, I said, okay, the community's pretty strong, I can see potential, but there's no way. Like, I was looking at brands, and I'm not going to name specific ones because some of them are ones that we represent, but I was looking at brands that are aging with the fountain pen market, and they weren't coming out with anything new. They were discontinuing models. And, you know, I can speak about a couple of them because I'm not really saying anything condescending, I'm just saying facts. You know, brands like Waterman, I'll use them as an example. They had the Phileas. It was a phenomenal pen, and, you know, they discontinued it, and the cheapest Waterman pen you can get now is the Hemisphere, which is like $70. That's their intro pen. Nobody's just, you know, on a whim going to buy a $70 pen on a hope that they'll get into the hobby. You know what I mean? Like, so Waterman is not a good intro brand. Sorry. Like, hopefully maybe somebody from Waterman will watch this and be like, wow, maybe we should develop a $20 pen. Yeah, you should. I would love to see that. You know what I mean? And like Parker, you know, they're kind of in the same boat. They've got some less expensive pens, but their pens are really getting up there, and they're not coming up with as many innovative, newer things. Brands that have been doing that, Twisby, Noodlers, Pilot has been doing that. Lamy, to a degree, hasn't been introducing new models necessarily, but they're coming out with new Lamy Safaris and All-Stars and stuff to keep people excited about these lower end, if you can call them that, pens. I think that's really awesome, and I've always encouraged that with our manufacturers. So I think that trend in the last couple of years has been catching on more, and I've been like, you know, not boy who cried wolf, because that has a bad connotation to it, but whatever. I've been advocating out there always to our manufacturers saying, hey, look, I'm really in touch with the community here, shooting videos, we're tweeting, we're doing all kinds of stuff back and forth with each other all day long. Like, I feel like we know you guys pretty well, and we are you guys, you know, like we're our part of this community. So I'm really trying to advocate to manufacturers and say, look, not everybody is limited edition pens. Not everybody has $500 to spend on a pen. Like, can you please come out with some really, really, really affordable stuff? It'll get your name out there, and I'm trying to like sizzle the steak a little bit for them. It'll get your name out there, and then as everybody kind of gets more into your brand, you can sell higher end pens and so on and so forth. You know, it's just a natural part of it. As you get more into the hobby, you appreciate the higher end stuff, you get into it, and so on. this hobby, this fountain pen, just from a very like macroeconomic level, if all fountain pen companies were to stay in kind of that elite group of getting more and more expensive, aging with the aging demographic of people who grew up using fountain pens, you know, if they continued on that route and didn't innovate and come out with new things, eventually fountain pens will just die off. You know, people will stop buying them and these companies will just fizzle away. And I really don't want to see that happen. I really don't, because I think fountain pens are awesome. I think, you know, anyone who's interested to use them should have the best access, the best education, the most affordable products possible for what they're looking for. And I just think that that should be a part of it, and that's a smart strategy for our fountain pen manufacturers to do. It's difficult sometimes because you get into economies of scale and you get into, you know, when you get into really cheap pens, it's a high equipment investment cost up front, and you have to sell a lot of those pens to pay back for those equipment, so you got to get into large volume. So it can be challenging, and that's a different way of marketing than the higher end pens and stuff like that. So I get that there are challenges with that, but at least here at Goulet, we try to give as much focus to the lower end pens as we do to the high end pens, and try to not keep it so elite feeling, and provide the support and access to these pens for anybody as possible. So, you know, we've seen brands like Visconti is coming out with some lower end stuff. This whole year, 2016, I think we're going to see, what I've been told anyway, I'm not privy to everything they're coming out with. They're definitely coming out with some really high end stuff, but they're coming out with some lower end stuff too. Not like $20 pens, but for where Visconti is, they're coming out with some lower end stuff. Platinum has been doing that a little bit here and there with some of their higher end like Mach-E stuff. They're coming out with some less expensive things. Pilot Namiki, the Metropolitan of course is a great example, but even some of their Namiki pens, you know, they have some really expensive like $7,000, $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 Mach-E pens. They're gonna, you know, they've got some Chinkin style pens, which are still Mach-E but a different style. They're gonna be in the $500, $600 range. So even in like the luxury pen range, some are coming down lower. So they're just kind of cool to see. And then like Montegrappa, you know, the Copper Mule. This is definitely one of their more affordable pens, or their Fortuna, you know, is on the lower end. So I think all of these brands are kind of thinking like, if we want to make it long term and bring new people into the hobby, we got to come out with some more introductory level stuff. So I think that's starting to catch on. I'm continuing to push and advocate for that. And obviously, what's going to help with that is people actually buying the stuff, because these are pen companies. They got to manufacture the stuff. You know, there's a long R&D period of, you know, maybe 2 years on a pen. So they got to believe it way in advance of when it actually happens before they see that payback. And then once they do start selling the pens, actually, it takes a while to pay back all that research and development, all that equipment, all that design, and all that kind of stuff. They have to really pay all that back with a lot of pens. So they have to really nail it in so many ways. It's difficult. This aspect of business is very challenging, especially in a niche market like ours. So, you know, you're not going to see this overwhelming flood of cheap products coming through, but you're going to start to selectively see here and there. You know, Aurora is another good example. They had the Ypsilon, you know, they tweaked the design a little bit. You know, the center band, they tweaked it a little bit. It used to have this kind of a center band. Now it's got this one. It's a little plainer, but, you know, making some of these tweaks so that the pen can become a $100 pen instead of a $125 pen. Doing things like that. It's very rare you see a pen actually drop in price, the same model, but Aurora's trying too. So, you know, I want to give credit to all the pen brands out there that are kind of seeing the future, seeing where they're going, and just like, you know, in general, I would say fountain pen manufacturers, fountain pen people, they really care about the community. They really care about what they do. They want to see that happening. And so I think you're going to see more of that happening, especially as new people are getting into the hobby and financially putting their money where their mouth is, supporting. We all say like, oh, I'd love a $20 Pelikan piston pen. Okay, sure you would, but you know, the company has to make money and be able to do intelligent things and run their business. But at the same time, like, we got to back it up. We got to buy the stuff that we say, oh my gosh, I really want this. And then when it comes out, okay, cool, you got to actually buy it to have the company like long term want to be able to produce it more. So that's really cool. I have been seeing a trend of that, and I hope to see more of it. Last question for this week, Adam H on YouTube says, Brian, have you and Rachel ever considered having some sort of rewards or points program for your customer base? Yes, we have considered that. That's not the end of the question. So there's lots of different ways to do this. Clearly, like Amazon Prime is like the program to look at for e-commerce retailers, but there's lots of other ways to do it. You can do like a more credit card reward style where the more you buy, you get points, you get, you know, percentage off a pen, you get free shipping, you get whatever. You know, there's lots of different ways to do it, lots of different like levers to pull from a promotional reward type standpoint. We have talked about a lot of these things. Honestly, as we've kind of thrown around the idea, it's kind of, we kind of like backed off of it. We're getting into a place where we're not as comfortable. I'll just be honest, we're not as comfortable with the whole like discount reward kind of thing. Not to say it's a bad idea or it's inherently bad or anything like that. It just gets outside of kind of what we know and what we've been comfortable doing so far. That said, because it's kind of uncomfortable, that probably is a gut check for me of like, I really need to question whether it's uncomfortable because it's something new and untested that we've never done. Might be a huge opportunity for us to serve our customers better and maybe possibly incentivize, you know, more growth of our business. Or it could be a total flop, and it could be miserable, and it could be manipulative, and it could be something that we should really watch out for. And that's why it's throwing off some flags for me. I don't know. I need to explore it a little deeper. Certainly, at the end of every day, what matters to me is the health of our company, taking care of our people, representing our brands well, and then also serving you as a customer in the best way possible. Me personally, and this is probably where some of this answer comes from, me personally, I don't really dig rewards programs as much. It's probably just my like straight-laced nature. For me, that's just a whole level of having to deal with complexity of something that I'm not as crazy about. I kind of enjoy, you know, like the Apple style structure of pricing. You know, I know when I buy an Apple computer, okay, they might come out, it's a technology company, so they might come out with a faster version of the computer. But I know that when I go to buy an Apple computer, I don't have to be like, oh, should I wait until next week because it might be on sale and all this kind of stuff, and I'm shopping around at 8 different places, and well, this place is cheaper, but is it really going to be better? You know, the more like you get into that kind of level of stuff, the harder it gets for you as a consumer, if I can use that word without being condescending. You know, you as a person interested in buying a pen, you know, if you're shopping around at all these different places and it's like you don't really know if it's a trade-off, you get a rewards program over here, but they have free shipping if you buy a smaller amount of items, but this other place is closer, it might get here quicker. There's all these different considerations you have to make when you're shopping around, right? And I fully recognize that. I'm hesitant a little bit to add another layer of complexity to your decision making for us. It's a very fine balance between wanting to reward the really loyal people who shop at Goulet and trying to manipulate people to shopping who wouldn't naturally want to shop anyway. I'm really not into manipulations personally. I want to be kind of just fair and straight up and just, you know, all that kind of stuff. At the same time, I'm a businessman. I recognize that, you know, people like getting a deal sometimes, you know, and you like getting, you know, sometimes you're just like right on the edge of buying something, and if you can get $5 off, you would buy it, you know. I don't want to be naive about the opportunities that as a business person it could provide, but also the value it could provide to you as a customer. So I want to be more intentional about how I think through that. So some of the things we thought through is like a pay membership, a Prime, Amazon Prime kind of thing. You're paying for membership, you get maybe free shipping or some other kind of thing. We've talked about like a VIP type program, which could be done in a variety of ways, whether it's you spend a certain dollar amount and you get into this program, you buy a certain number of orders, you're with us for a certain period of time, you pay to get in. I don't know, there's lots of different ways to do it, but some sort of like you are, you know, not just a first time kind of customer or whatever, that you come in, you're bought in, you've drank the Goulet Kool-Aid, so to speak, and you are really loyal, and we want to reward you somehow. So maybe you get advance notice on a new product that's coming out, or you get, you know, put into a drawing for a guaranteed pre-order type situation. I don't know, there's lots of different ideas that we have of things that we could do. It would only want to be things that like would really be things that we could deliver on. So we have to be kind of, especially if it's like, you know, the whole like pre-order thing. Like the reason we don't do pre-orders is because a lot of times stock isn't guaranteed, and we would have to, you know, renege on a lot of offers that we might have. So we have to be careful of that. You know, exclusive deals, exclusive packages. You know, we could even do other things, other value adds, like, you know, all of our VIPs, you know, you get a handwritten letter from me, or we get to Skype session for 30 minutes or so. I don't know. There's all kinds of like weird, crazy things that we could do. And then I've got all kinds of, you know, I'm just literally just like rattling off some of these ideas. These are all kind of things that we could talk about. Some of these things require technical hurdles, like we could do a VIP program or something along those lines, but it's got to be built out on our website. And, you know, the development costs, I'm not joking, might be $20,000 to build a program like that. I'll throw that number out there, but web developers are not cheap, and programmers, they got to write code and they got to do all that kind of stuff. So we got to really know what it is. And for me, part of that's just I'm a little gun shy to throw a huge investment of time and money without being able to like kind of test if the program would even work. I don't know. So we'll have to be really kind of thoughtful about how we do that kind of stuff. So that's why you haven't seen anything come out yet. It's not that I don't value you guys. It's not that I don't value some kind of program like that. It's that it's so complex to set up for us at this point that it would come at the cost, at the sacrifice of doing a lot of other things that I know are really of value to you, like immediately. So those kind of things are the strategic things that, as I'm kind of more in the strategic business long-term vision mindset, I am thinking about these kinds of things. But I don't want to just like half-heartedly put something like that together. So that's something that's kind of pretty much where I'm at right now with all that kind of stuff. So thank you, Adam. That was a great question. So my question of the week this week, this is kind of piggybacking off of the final question that I had here in the Q&A. And this is honestly, it's something I value for you as feedback as a maybe customer or just somebody who just shops online. I imagine if you're watching this video, you've probably bought something online before. I would love to do a little research here. If you would just kind of go along the ride for the ride with me here for a minute. I would love to know, what online retailers do you shop at regularly, and do they have any type of rewards program? And what you might like or not like about it. So it's kind of general, but think about like some of the most like regular companies that you shop at, the ones that you're not just like signing up for a one-time coupon, or I don't know, if you sign up for like a one-time coupon, or there's a sweepstakes and you sign up for their email newsletter, or some program and you're like, well, forget that, I really just wanted to be in the contest. That kind of stuff is good to know too. So I would love to know just what are some of your habits, some of your things that you really value about some of the programs, or some of the things that you're like, yeah, I kind of see where they're going with this, but it really kind of turns me off. I signed up for this program and they email me like every single day and I spam and I don't like it and I don't feel valued at all. I would love to hear some like specifics, like really, I'm not joking, like get into details in the comments. It would be really, really valuable for me. And it's not anything like instantly I'll be able to change anything, but like it'd be really valuable for me to know that information so that I can get some really good ideas about like what matters to you about what kind of a program we could potentially build out in the future. That would be super, super valuable for me. And I'd be really interested to see that. So. Cool. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. This is a wonderful Q&A. I had a good time doing this one. I hope you enjoyed this. I know there's a lot of new products coming out right now, a lot of crazy things going on. So feel free to ask in the comments or hit up our team, info@gouletpens.com. If you have any questions about when products are coming out or any of that kind of thing. We try and keep you up to date on that, but there is just a lot happening in March, and there'll be a lot happening in April too. So it'll be good stuff. So thank you so much for watching. I'm extremely honored and appreciative of all the time that you give me, especially you all right now who are sticking at the end of the Q&A. We're an hour and 12 minutes in at this point, and I'm just super honored to all of you, especially those of you who watch like week in and week out. I just want to stop and pause for a second and say that is just incredible to me, the amount of time. I'm looking at the view count on our videos every week for Q&A and just the comments, the engagement, and everything. I've been talking to like some marketing consultants and stuff, just to kind of like double check some of the things. And I want to get outside perspective sometimes. I want to be tunnel vision about the way we do things. And just everybody that I talk to, other business owners, marketing people, whoever I talk to, they are just continually blown away by the quality of the engagement that we have with the community, just the strength of the community. It's just so impressive. It's really unique. And I think a lot of you who are really engaged in the community, you know how special this is, and it's just really, it's very civil for the most part. And I just want to pause for a second. I just love you guys. I'll get a little like mushy or whatever. I just love the fountain pen community. Maybe I've just been listening to too much Gary Vee and I'm all like super into like appreciation and all this kind of stuff. He's real big on showing appreciation. Express gratitude is one of our core values. So I just want to express gratitude right now. Thank you so much for all your engagement. It makes every day for me. Literally last night I was up until 1:20 in the morning, doing an interview for Pen World that'll be coming out in like June or something. I don't know. I was writing a blog post for the Copper Mule that published on Wednesday. I'm answering emails, you name it. I'm always driven to want to do more for you guys, and just that. you know, the comments and the feedback you guys give me is like my oxygen. I appreciate it. So anyway, thank you so much. Hope you have a wonderful week. I'll see you next week for Q&A, and right on.